Is this like referring to like a specific religion, or is it just like a blanket?
Um, it is it is referring to something specific. It's in my mind, it's not really a religion, even though it does fit some of the definitions of religion. It's unorganized. It's like we don't have a church or a hierarchy or, holy texts or anything like that. But it does qualify for a religion if you look it up. If you look up the word religion in a dictionary, there are a couple definitions that still do apply. So, but in my head, it's like a non-religious religion. But yeah, it's a specific thing. So the word faithist actually was sort of coined in about 150 years ago, and the teachings of faithism have
Not
been around for a
honest, but like mono, like theocratic, right?
Yeah, well, we only worship the Creator. In our teaching, the gods, the different pantheons, all the different gods of the Bible, and Norse and Greek and Egyptian. Um, we don't worship any of the gods that you could find in whatever tradition you're looking at, but we do worship the Creator. We view the Creator as far and above, like the source of everything, including the gods. And so we don't pay homage to the gods, but we
So
acknowledge
yeah,
that
it's kind
they.
of like, like omnist, but monotheistic, right? So like there's only one God, but you take kind of bits and pieces out of many different religions, and you believe they all kind of have like a part of like one, big religion.
Right. So yes, exactly. The way it pans out with sort of our teachings is that faithist teachings go back like 30, 40,000 years. Way before organized religion, and it was mainly just part of the human experience. We were trying to figure out the meaning of life and how to get along and all that stuff, and as time progressed and people sort of became distinct in their own geography and their own culture and their own traditions, then the teachings were kind of divided up and over time became many, many, many different religions. And so all the religions do have fragments of the original teachings. And so now that I'm a faithist, I have a lot more in common with most belief systems because I can see the commonality there. I mean, I can obviously see the differences, but I'd rather focus on what we have in common.
No, yeah, that mine's pretty similar. I don't really follow a specific organized religion either, and but I do dislike the term creator. It gives this like human aspect to like a higher power, which I think is minimizing the effect, I think
Hmm.
creator is too human to describe something like that. Creator, it gives the impression that this is like a kind of like reflection of like human beings in and of itself because it has like a job. Like creator is a very human word. I feel like higher power or all encompassing is more accurate.
Hmm.
Also, I don't think I don't definitely use words from like Holy Spirit or Satan is very Abrahamic, and it's not my favorite. I also believe in reincarnation. Um,
Hmm.
I believe like the spirit goes back into the earth just like your nutrients does, and you get reincarnated into other lives and etc.
Hmm. So the term creator I have issues with as well. A lot of the terms you see on the screen are not necessarily ideal, but they are common, and so sort of a frame of reference for anybody to sort of understand what is trying to be communicated. The reason why I don't like creator is because it's only one side, because the creator, the source, is also a destroyer, because light always follows darkness, followed by darkness, followed by light. Life always is followed by death. So it's like a creation and the destruction is just sort of the next phase of creation, but it is a cyclical thing. So it's a creation of a world, and the world gets old and matures and kind of falls apart and gets destroyed eventually, and those elements, like reincarnation, what you're talking about, get recycled into another world or another aspect of reality. But
Yeah,
I do use words that I try to make it accessible to anybody to be able to just watch, to look at it and know sort of a little bit about the perspective. But yeah, I do agree with you. The Holy Spirit and Satan himself, um,
kind
well,
of symbols.
yeah, I mean, it's a way of just allowing people to have a familiar term and understand that we have a sort of a distinct, different teaching than that sort of Abrahamic traditional way of thinking about it.
My view of like spirituality is kind of weird. I think that the spiritual is kind of a reflection of like the physical realm, right? And
Hmm.
like this higher power or the creator would be all of spirit in and of itself. It is not a being. It has no intention other than just to work naturally as it does. It's kind of like, you know, how like nature has its rules and its aspects and it follows a certain pattern, but it's not intentional. It's just the way it works.
Hmm.
It's kind of like that. But I think spiritually, we're like we there's kind of like two sides to it. So there's like the physical and what the world we live in is like, and then there's the spiritual, which is like a reflection of such. So
Hmm.
trees, people, all of that have the exact same stuff in it. You can call it spirit, you can call it soul or whatever. And that gets reincarnated, it goes back into the earth just like a physical representation does with like nutrients and stuff. It also has, you know, properties like growth and death and all of that. Same like in a physical realm, you can see it tangibly. Spirit does the same things, but it never goes away. Energy is never destroyed, created, or destroyed. It's always constant. And so that
Yeah,
energy is always moving into other aspects of
just
life. And I
just
think
change.
that I do believe in like some karma and dharma and stuff. So, and in that and reincarnation are the same. So,
Let
like,
me let me ask you about reincarnation. I mean, I don't know a lot about it. Is the cycle Does the cycle ever progress? Like, or is it just sort of a loop in the same sort of reality?
I think that like spirit progresses. So, like, the more it goes through, the more it progresses as its self,
Mm.
right? So, nature does the same. The longer it lives, the more it progresses, and it does eventually die. I think it's just that cyclical process.
But if we're born in this realm, we're basically stuck in this realm, but we do have a chance to sort of have multiple turns on the merry-go-round, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
infinitely. Yeah, I don't think that. I don't believe in like a heaven or hell. Definitely not.
Hmm.
I believe that some lives are good and some lives are bad,
Hmm.
and that eventually there will be the last life until, you know, Earth is destroyed or whatever, and then that energy goes somewhere else. But I don't think that there's like you die and you go to heaven or anything like that. I think you die and you get reincarnated into a better or a worse life than you had prior.
Hmm.
And I think we
Yeah,
can like work on that
reincarnation is an
over
interesting
millennia,
idea.
you know.
I, I I think there's a lot of evidence for reincarnation. I don't particularly subscribe to it, but I find it fascinating. And there is a lot of evidence for it. I mean, especially now in our information age, where we can access people's stories from all around the world, it is really
It's
an interesting
cool.
idea.
It's really interesting to look into. I don't think I'll ever like truly wholeheartedly believe in anything other than just like I don't think we're just the physical, you know. I think there's definitely something more there. But other than that, rules and concepts like that are always kind of like I'm a bit wishy-washy with it. But those are like that's like the basic of what I do. I do think get reincarnated. I don't know everything. I'm not all knowing. I'm not omniscient. I'm no god. But I think that to put your like whole head into something and be like, yeah, nothing, this is the real truth. This is definitely it, is kind of naive, you know? Like, I think that if you're not open to being like, well, could be wrong, then, you know, you can't really say
Oh, I
it.
totally agree with that. Especially being an ex-Christian where I was so certain of everything. Now I do have kind of baseline beliefs, and I give myself the luxury of believing them, but I also know that they could be totally way off, and
Right.
I will have to adjust my perspective as new information comes in.
The only thing
I
I really
don't,
just don't believe in is like the Abrahamic heaven and hell. I can't wrap my head around it. Like you're a good person, but you don't believe in that God, and then you're gonna go to hell. It's super weird and very political, and I don't like it. It
well,
seems politically motivated.
what's really interesting, I mean, I'm piggybacking off of scholars because I'm not one, but according to the experts, that is really not a teaching that can be fully outlined in the Torah or the Bible, Christian Bible or the Hebrew Bible. That's more of
Quran.
a teaching that has sort of been made up by Christians,
Yeah,
and
I
so
believe so too because
it's really
Buddhists they
not
have
there.
like the different realms you go into after you
Mm,
know reincarnation. They have hell realms and you know God realms and all that. But and that's but it's like a different concept when they talk about it. They're not talking about like an actual place. They're talking about like a kind of life to live. You know.
hmm
That you're going to live in this next life, which makes more sense to me than like an actual heaven or hell. Like damnation for eternity sounds a lot like a fear tactic to get people to join the church.
Yeah. So is your philosophy primarily based in Buddhism, or is it just whatever you find resonates with you?
I like Buddhism. A lot of it's in Buddhism, but definitely
Hmm.
not all. I think it's cool, and I like their ideologies of just be a good person, give to others, try to find yourself, all that. You know, I
Hmm.
think that you know doing good will bring good to you, and doing bad will bring bad. What comes around goes around type energy.
Hmm.
And just try to be the best person you can be. Live your life, have fun, good job, goodbye, and then die one
Yeah.
day, and hopefully have a good next life. You know, do as much as you
Yeah.
can now, and then skip it.
So, would you be open to me sort of outlining a little bit about Faithist teachings? Not for the, I'm a really not a big fan of persuasion.
No, yeah,
I
go for it.
I have no
Interesting.
interest. I'm so done
Indoctrinate.
with trying to be persuaded and to try. But just for your information, plus there are a couple other people here. Um, okay, so the word faith, as I said, was about 150 years old. Um, it came from a set of automatic writings that was given to this guy on a typewriter, actually. Very interesting. Of course, there's no way of proving that it was true automatic writing or not, um, but that's the story, anyways. And so, in these collections of teachings, there is a worldview that is interesting and makes a lot of sense to my brain. And so, here it is. Um, when we are born into this physical world, it is very much equivalent to sort of the gestation period of pregnancy. And so, this world, this realm, this physical reality that we're in, is a mechanism to grow and mature our character, our spirit, our intellect, all our talents, our all aspects of ourselves. Like when we're in the womb, we're growing our arms and
Oh, until
legs.
you like graduate into like the spiritual realm, I've heard that, and
Yes.
it's very cool.
Mhm. So when our body dies, it's actually called resurrection because or birth because that's when real life actually begins, is when this physical body dies. That's when life begins. And I really like that. And there there's a spectrum to everything in life.
See, I
And
would
when
believe
we,
that, but I would definitely believe that it had to be more than one life to like train you, into that to
well,
graduate.
it's kind of all considered to be one life, but in different realms of reality. And so when our body dies, depending on how mature we became, is sort of we're going to continue the same journey on the other side. And so there are terms like heaven and hell just to allow, because those are familiar terms, basically.
Mhm.
But if you were really immature in your spiritual growth and you were very self-centered, then you're going to continue that journey in a realm that is appropriate for you to continue to grow.
Yeah, that's kind of like the similar of the hell realms in Buddhism too. So like whatever your life kind of reflects, whatever you kind of need to work on, you'll experience in your next life, and then so on and so forth. So you'll like as you get better as a person until you eventually reach like what's the word?
Nirvana.
Yeah, nirvana. I was thinking of a better word for it, but yeah, nirvana is the Buddhist. Yeah, and so it's kind of similar in that aspect, but very cool, very cool. I love
Yeah.
the idea. Like I've read that before. It's very nice. It's very cool, and I hope that it's real because as like I would love to like explore the depths of space as an astral projection.
Hmm.
That would be sick as hell. So
Yeah. Well, okay, so that's the so once our body dies, then it gets really interesting.
the
So
mind goes
you
word.
can go to different depending on your life here, you go to different realms. Okay. Now, um, the, when you die, your spirit may be in a state of darkness and confusion and not be able to actually go to another realm, and you may get stuck in the physical plane as a spirit. So
Gross.
you're basically stuck on the planet, but on the spiritual side of things. And that explains a lot of the supernatural, like ghost sightings and different things like that, spirits that are just really in a state of sort of. One example in the book is called when a soldier dies on the battlefront, they don't actually realize they're dead and they just keep fighting, but now they're just fighting other spirits who have died, and they don't because their death was so enraptured in violence and um, it was sudden, and they just get stuck. And there's a there's a there's a lot more to this, but I'll summarize it. This is the one of the best differences between like the traditional way of thinking of heaven and hell. You can go to a hell, and basically hell is a state of being where it's chaos and confusion and darkness. But unlike the sort of the traditional Abrahamic tradition that has been invented, that's not the end of the journey.
Yeah, you can get out.
Yeah, so the creator, for lack of a better term, the source, has special armies, specially trained um, workers that go to hells and rescue spirits from hells and take them to what's called nurseries and hospitals to rehabilitate them, to get rid of that confusion, and to actually educate them on what has actually happened and given them a chance to sort of reorient to this new reality. And so, yeah, you can go to hell, but that's not the end of the story. You're not abandoned. You will be rescued, and you will be cared for, and you will always be loved, and you will always have a chance to get to that nirvana state of being.
Which makes so
And
much more sense than Abrahamic religions.
I know,
This
right?
this this uh this one though it definitely sounds like a fever dream, which is the best kind of um religious.
I'm totally cool with it being absolutely bollocks, but it makes sense for me right now, and it gives me a whole lot more peace and a lot more Um,
It's cool.
it gives me the ability, um, in a constant state of fear, and I'll take that. I'll take it.
Right. Yeah, like I like when I'm like freaked out and stuff, I have to remind myself to like make my world small because I tend to like think about like obviously politics and stuff in America is always scary and
Hmm.
or like big things like that's happening at my job and stuff like that. The world like consequences long term type stuff. So sometimes
Hmm.
I have to like bring myself back, center yourself and all that. And sometimes that helps, like having something to like hold on to. That's why I don't really uh, give like Abrahamic religious people too much crap. Well, unless they're being an asshole. But excuse my language.
Hmm.
But
Oh, you're fine.
because like a lot of people need that little crutch to lean back on, and that's perfectly reasonable. Everybody needs a little help now and then. And saying a crutch has kind of negative connotations, but it shouldn't. I think it's an okay thing to have. But that was cool. I'm definitely gonna have to do some reading into it. Faithist, it sounds interesting.
Well, if you want to actually read some of the teachings, I can give you the name of the book. I don't think I actually have it on the screen. I'm not sure. I don't have it on the screen. I'll type it in. Um, the book is called Owaspy, and that is the collection of automatic writings I was talking about.
Owasbi.
Hang on, let me write it in the comments.
Is it like a physical book or is it like a collection of books?
It's a collection of books that have been bound together. It's actually similar to the Bible because the
Yes.
Bible is not a book. It's a library of books, right?
What's missing a
So
cover?
it's a collection of books. And you can read it online. You don't have to buy it. You can just go to sacredtext.org or .com or whatever and read it there, or just look up a WASPy PDF and you'll find free versions of
Can
it.
you spell it?
I put it in the comments there.
Mm,
OAHSPE.
SBE.
And
Yeah, okay.
yeah, I mean, if you ever have any questions about it, I'm kind of a newbie. I've only been studying it for about 2 years, trying to understand it.